Chef Susur, welcome to the National Critics' Choice online news. And also viewers, this is the Gateway Hyatt, the Grand Hyatt Hotel International online news as well.
Right.
And here I am with Chef Susur, who is here in Singapore for the World Gourmet Summit. And he's been here in Singapore very many times, and he's one of the biggest fan of Singapore and Southeast Asia. Chef Susur, really, may have asked, what is your secret of your success? Being a chef and being so well known, people just wonder what's your drive behind it.
Oh, my secret of success. Wow. So many stages in my life, and wanted to be, to have that drive and continuing to have that drive to want to be a successful chef. A chef nowadays, not just a chef itself, but managing other chefs in order to continue showing that they can produce your passion, and continuing researching and bringing it back to them, making sure they're still interested with the profession. It's one of my passion of, having young chef and then finding himself being a chef. It's a skill lesson, it's a life lesson, and my success is really, be very understanding with people, to understand, how and when and what to do in the moment of to help me to be successful. Now, of course, there's one part. Another part is you have to love food. You have to be very passionate. That's the only one thing I really do very well in my whole life. Food and traveling, and also curious, and also, curiosity, and also, just to be educated about to live through food, eating, tasting, what's the culture meant to them with food, symbolically, like religiously, celebration, where it's located in the world, and why people eat certain things by choice of healthiness, by choice of religion, by choice of, where that product grow and what season. So there are a lot of things that makes me really wondering all the time, and a curiosity about the world. Because by the end of it, we are just, in many ways, we are very self-important, and it's a mission for me to really continue to research. It makes me happy. It's a very much like a therapeutic kind of a way to taste things. I think I think being a great chef and successful, you have to like the sensation of taste, the feeling, how the smell, the sight, the color, when you're making it, timing, and then you have to have creativity. So all those things you have to be very in one in order to become that moment. Cooking is the moment from the process of one to Z. And it's the most satisfying thing. That makes me really the greatest drive to continue to be a successful chef.
Speaking about success, drive, my viewers right now has actually credited you, and at the same time, you're the most highly voted as the most favorite chef for the World Gourmet Summit here in 2012. And most of them say that it's because it's got to do with your charisma, your leadership. What is leadership to you? What was the turning point of your life while growing up and having to make a decision to become a chef?
Right.
What is it? Does leadership take experience, or does it actually take charisma, or did you take on an example of your mentor?
I think it has to be both. I mean, character, and also it really comes from your family, how they, to nurture you. And I think I'm very much like my mother, and she's a very bossy person. She's very vocal. She's very vocal and also love to be communicating, love to understand, love feelings. And she's almost like a witch to me. So I think when I was a little boy, I really learned that skill by not just reading a book, by just feeling what's around you. But it's very important, it's detail. She's very, very detailed. So I think with that detail, and you have to know how to articulate. Articulating is a form of leadership. When you know how to articulate, you have to have people to listen to you. Now, how would you say there's many ways of people listening to you? There's a boring way, there's a very straight kind of a way, and there's a very interesting. Sometimes people have 10 minutes of speech and it's like, oh, I got it. Interesting, right to the point. I know exactly what he's trying to say. But there are people who like talk forever, and they say finally, okay, I got it. Now they're falling asleep. So I think the way how I see leadership is the word understanding, and you can proceed about people's personality, their strength, their weaknesses, and also their passion. Sometimes, I forgive my staff. There's certain things they're not good at, for example. Now I said to myself, he or she is not good at that. It means I can have somebody who's good at that to help them to be better. So that's how I see leadership. In the kitchen, it's like running a country in many ways. It might sound a little bit too funny, but you have different life, different culture, different timing. So everybody comes together, become working together in something that you want to achieve. But you have to introduce what you wanted. So I felt that there are politics in the kitchen. There is different life in the kitchen. I think it's just fascinating for me. Because one of the things I always want to make it work. I love solving problems, especially since I become a father. I think one of the things really made me a better leadership is how to explain. Because not everybody is like you. Everybody have a different experience. Everybody have a different upbringing. So if they don't know, doesn't mean it means he's an innocent child. If you explain, now that person they have to be absorbed what you're trying to say, and then you would get the things what your vision is. So it would go the way it's supposed to. So leadership is very important. Understanding.
And understanding as it comes, many were wondering, what is food to you? What is the philosophy of food?
What is food to me?
Yes, and what is the philosophy? Your philosophy.
Well, food has always been, fuel. For example, I believe eating good food, you have good energy. Choosing good food is a knowledge. Now, how would you have experience, knowledge? It means you have to make effort to experience, to learn, to become, I understand why. I know that what does do to me. What happened if I eat that? I'll give an example. I had this moment at the World Gourmet Summit. The Spanish chef is a mixologist. And he has all these beautiful things on the table. And I said, what's this? He said, oh, this is a Sichuan peppercorn flour. I never heard of Sichuan peppercorn flour. And he said, oh, try it. I said, I love Sichuan peppercorn. Take one flour bit. My whole mouth. It was the first experience, that explosion of numbing effect, which I've been to Sichuan, I've been to Hunan. So I've been tasting all these really spicy, numbing spices. That was one of the most amazing experience for that style of spices. And I suddenly experiencing that. So, and those are the passion of learning, exploring. And sometimes, when you're associated with that profession, Gourmet Summit charity event. I just did a James Beard Foundation event in Phoenix. I was cooking, for Oprah. So all those great things, all these little things you learn, and then it gives you a great joy to explore something. I thought I see everything. Now I've become a student again. So that makes me really excited about the passion of food.
Amazing. And what kind of ingredients do you usually look out for? I mean, was there any peculiar ingredients that you usually love to use in most of your cooking, or do you have probably your own encyclopedia of ingredients?
That's a good way to put it. Encyclopedia is just a great way to see all this. My cooking is fusion. Fusion is many countries fused together because because I'm a Chinese upbringing. I always have the Cantonese taste, and re-educated myself in Asia by traveling, tasting from all this area of China, and so I don't have one really particular spices or herbs or ingredient. I love cooking. And I think if you have one, I don't think you're that great a chef. It's only one or two few things. And I think, being a great chef, you have to understand from bitter, sweet, sour, ocean sweetness, and also spices. In order to really appreciate, you have to appreciate all that in order to become a really good chef. But you say, I don't like sweet things. I don't like bitter things. There's so many cultures love bitter things. It's a great, beautiful taste. So for me, I don't have one. I have all favorites. I do have all favorites of when I travel, for example, and I see what locally grown. It inspires me. It doesn't mean I'm saying, I don't want to use this because this is not my style of cooking. I like to try it, but I would improvise that information, that flavor, that spice, that taste into my imagination to make something with fish, with meat, with vegetable, or even with raw food. So,
what's next for you? Really, what is the trend of cooking?
yeah.
Because many have asked, in this World Gourmet Summit, it's been asked many times, and I'm sure you kind of like sick and tired of saying it. But as a chef, as a leader, and being a fusion innovator, what do you have any comments or give any outlook and insights for our viewers?
Right. For the future of dining,
Yes.
or future of
The future of dining and cooking.
cooking.
Yes.
Well, I think the health is always driven. What I always thought about. I had my whole life with my style of cooking, from fine cooking and communal cooking, fusion, from fusion to casual with sophistication. So I have this experience about, I don't want to use the word trend. I think, time and place is very important. People emotion and people information, how they live every day, generations. So if you look at the generation, because I have children, they are in the early 20s. So for me, that is the next way to see how they socialize, the habit, what they like, what is the social scene, how do they eat. I think it's a way of casual, but food has to be, I would say food has to be very professionally cooked and interesting, because that is something that make the dialogue every day when they're having friends eating. Next thing you know, they take a photo and send it to their friends, and their friends send another photo to something to do with food. So the information has to be instant. So I find that people who goes to fine dining, people who goes to casual, great food, and I think they have a very different way to go out, because casual dining. What I mean casual is the emotion is casual. You don't feel like you walked in, you feel at ease. You don't feel like that you have to have a certain things, in the restaurant you should be doing. And when you order food, you share with your friends, you talk about it, you share information, and then you go and talk about drinks. Food is not just the only one part of it. Cocktails, mixologists, DJ, music, the room itself, the color, the style of the people who's serving the food. So it's such a whole emotion right now. What restaurant, the way how I see, not say the future, I say right now. I don't really, sometimes I don't look at the future. I always look at right in the present. And I don't want to look back either, because right now that's what we do. You know, food is just in the moment.
Speaking of not looking back, but looking forward to the future, what life lessons have you learned? Could you give like 3 points for future generations who could learn and adapt and perhaps even understand how to be a good chef for those who want to follow in your footsteps?
Sure.
Yes.
Well, you know, if it's 3 life lessons, I think number 1, if you want to be a chef, forget about your love life the first 2 years. Which is the truth, because you have to be so crazy about what you do. You don't really have time to really spend, when you are, young and fall in love, you spend time. I can't, Friday and Saturday, sorry, I gotta work. No, you're coming, we're going now. So, the life schedule is very different. It's like every celebration you have to work. So you have to really understand your lifestyle, what that means. You have to complete the opposite. Somebody's sleeping and you're working. Somebody having a time off, you're working. Somebody celebrating, you are working. So there's one. It might sound very negative, but the force of learning is so powerful. When I always say to my chef, yes, you know what, I give you a shift 7 hours a day. But if you work more than 7 hours a day, it means your experience with the time is actually more, because it takes skill, it takes memories, you take practice. The more you do, the more you practice, more memory, and so you become very good. So there's the process. It doesn't have a time being a chef. By the end is your product. What does that mean? The marinated of time, the way of cutting, air drying. How do you see that dish should be cooked? Making sure the taste is right, the source of a resource, of ingredient has to be right. So those that take time too. So that's number 2. Number 3 is, you have to be very patient. You almost have this, I have to think like a Shaolin temple in the old days. You have to be reserved, you have to be not so cocky, you have to be humble, you have to always be a student. You always have to think like, I don't know enough. But of course, documenting is very important. Knowing your first experience. Write things down. My first day of working, I still have my handwritten book, what I have done in my kitchen. So, so with all that, I think that really, and also, you have to feel really devoted to that profession. People say, it's going to be long hours, greasy, smelly. I think our job is so positive. The job is always feed people, make them happy, great food. And it's a job that really continue, you can go anywhere in the world. There's only one communication in the kitchen. You don't have to speak. It's by looking at the food. People would understand the good taste, the smile, and the happiness.
Do you have any plans for next year? If, for instance, if you were invited to the World Gourmet Summit again next year,
right,
here in Singapore,
yes,
what will be the kind of menu that you would present?
Oh, it's always going to be I love coming back to cook in Singapore. It's one of my favorite places in the world to cook. I always love, the diversity of spices and Singaporean just love eating. And they always talk about food. And I love the fact that their food that is local, their food is international, and there's other food it combined together. So coming to Singapore, when I do my food, it's always an Asian base. No matter how, you close your eyes, you taste it, it has to be Asian. But you look at it's like, I never seen anything like that. So that is the way how I want to do. That's my style of cooking. I wanted the surprise, and I wanted to have the engagement of people remember when dishes say, oh, last year, Chef Susur, you make that dish, I keep thinking about it, The first dish, I have a customer always keep saying to me, oh, do you remember 99 or 2000 you made that dish, and that is something I always treasure that because making people a memory in food is a very powerful thing. It's like people celebrate you're having a birthday or, And sometimes it's not the birthday, it's the food that reminded them their birthday. So.
Well, Chef Susur, thank you for being with us here at the National Critics' Choice and also at Say It with Hyatt online news. And please, everyone, please do look out for Chef Susur on his Facebook or probably even his website.
Yes.
Look out for him. I'm Robin Stienberg. Thank you for watching the National Critics' Choice.